I'd like to start out with a number. Thanks everyone for being here today. Good morning. 1.91 billion. Can anyone guess what that number might be? There are a lot of people in China. Actually, 1.91 billion is the number of smartphone users that are expected to be worldwide by the end of this year. So as a game developer, you guys are creating content, entertainment, lifestyle for 1.91 billion people worldwide. And that's an extremely powerful thing. You guys are creating games that can have immense reach around the world and entertainment that can be consumed by all types of people. But with that comes a lot of challenges. As you guys know, games are being released every day. According to VentureBeat, 500 iOS games are released every day, 250 on Android. So the question for every game developer is, how do I get my game distributed? How do I get my game discovered by those 1.91 billion people? So today I'd like to talk about, you've made a game, so now what? A guide to a cost-efficient user acquisition. My name is Scott Yu. I'm the head of Asia operations at Chartboost, and hopefully I can share some insights with you today for you guys to do paid user acquisition in a smart and cost-efficient way. In 4 years, Chartboost has the privilege to work with over 150,000 games and see over 20 billion game sessions in our network and reach over 600 million monthly active gamers. The first step to cost-efficient acquisition is gathering the data. Data is becoming such a big thing in user acquisition, and I want to talk to you about how you gather that data so that you can make the right decisions. At Chartboost, we work with mobile games only. What that allows us to do is collect data on active game players that you will be acquiring through the network. This chart here is no secret. The cost of acquisition is rising. Anybody who has done any type of paid user acquisition or is thinking about doing it is seeing these figures and being concerned. One install on iPad costs over $2. You're releasing a free game, and your concern is, how do I get a user to pay over $2 inside of my game after I release it, right? That $2 figure is changes the equation of not only you thinking about how much is that user going to pay inside of my game, but also how long do they need to play for you to get that $2 back. So the name of the game is volume and quality. When you talked about paid user acquisition, people always thought about volume, right? You go to any user acquisition channel, the first question you might ask is, how much volume can I get? How many installs can I get? But the game is changing. You can't just survive, release a free game, and be just worried about how many users are you going to get. You need to be worried about how many and what kind of users are you going to get. So every user acquisition partner that you talk to, you need to be concerned about how many users can you deliver, but also what type of users can you deliver. Targeting is becoming a really big thing in balancing between volume and quality. Any user acquisition channel will tell you, hey, you could target by country, by device. You could separate out between devices and countries and target, Europe only and iPad devices only. And that's now changing, where a lot of user acquisition channels are offering category targeting. Are you releasing a casual game? Then you should target casual users. Are you releasing a role-playing game? Then you should target role-playing game players. And all user acquisition channels are optimizing publishers by eCPM. What that means is they're optimizing your campaigns based on volume. But that is also changing. Now, you should be optimizing all your paid user acquisition campaigns by ROI. How can you optimize based on ROI without transparency? That is a question you should be asking. Talk to any user acquisition partner out there. You need to ask yourselves, what kind of data are they providing you so that you can optimize those campaigns? A lot of user acquisition channels will tell you, we optimize based on ROI. We'll do that for you. But you should have that control. They should be providing you the data so that you have your own unique metrics and KPIs that you want to meet, and you should be able to take action in those user acquisition channels to be able to optimize based on ROI. So what does transparency actually mean? Everyone talks about transparency in data. At Chartboost, we believe that transparency equals app-level data. You're getting users from all these different sources. Where are all these users coming from? At Chartboost, we believe that we want to give you the power to show you which games the users are actually coming from. What does that allow you to do? That allows you to optimize on each source of inventory where you're getting your users. As you can see on this chart, let's say you're getting from a user from app A versus app C. You probably want to optimize your campaigns to get more traffic through app C. Not all the user acquisition channels are allowing you to do this. So whenever you talk to a user acquisition channel, ask yourselves this and ask them this. Give me the data. Give me the data so that I can optimize the campaigns to meet the KPIs that I'm setting for my own game. So you've gathered all the data. Now what do you do with it? You need to analyze the data. So optimizing on ROI, that means you need to determine the quality. What is quality? Well, any marketing managers that will tell you quality is retention and engagement plus monetization. So at first, I want to talk about some of the metrics to track retention and engagement. You guys know that retention, you want to be looking at day 1, day 7, day 28 percentages. How many users that you've acquired through these paid user acquisition channels are actually staying inside of your game after you've paid for them? Daily active users, monthly active users. Daily active users versus monthly active users, the ratio measuring engagement of uniques. I wanted to share some benchmarks of daily active users and monthly active users that you're seeing. The Glue portfolio is seeing 10 to 13%. Angry Birds back in the day saw 0.1%. That alone shows you that things have changed dramatically between the number of active users that are alive right now in the world and daily active users against monthly active users. The percentage is really changing between Jackpot, Party Slots, and Zynga portfolio between 16% and 22 to 23%. Retention benchmarks. People always ask, what is the formula that I should look for? How many users should I have after day 1, day 7, day 28? The magic formula here is 40, 20, 10. 40% after day 1, 20% after day 7, 10% after day 28. Now, these are benchmarks that I can share with you guys, but again, your game is very unique. So I wanted to share some breakdowns of how day 7 retention looks between platforms and between categories. Here's the day 7 retention percentage for iOS by category. Again, in the previous slide, I had mentioned that the target day 7 percentage that you want to aim for is 20%. But when you break it down by different categories, you can see that dice games, actually, you should be aiming for a 26% day 7 percentage, whereas education and family games, you see a lower day 7 percentage of 8%. Let's break it down even further. Let's look at board game day 7 retention, which is 15%. But again, let's say you have a board game and you're acquiring users and using 15% as the benchmark. Again, the question you should be asking yourself is, where are those users coming from? This next slide shows you the board game retention by publisher category. So for example, if you're a board game and you're acquiring users from card category games, you should be seeing a 29% day 7 retention. Again, you can see that board games, while you should be aiming for a 15% day 7 retention rate, when you break it down by each publisher category, you can actually see that you should actually be targeting card and music games if you're a board game to be acquiring users in a more efficient way. That's where the quality lies, right? And maybe what you should do is exclude players from role-playing and sports game if you're optimizing your campaigns based on D7 retention. So again, it is about what metrics you want to optimize towards, analyzing the data that you have gathered so that you can optimize your campaigns on retention percentages. Here are the metrics to track for monetization. Monetization is obviously extremely important. You're paying for each user that you acquire, so it's important that you monetize them. So here are some of the key metrics that you want to track. Arpu, ARPDAU, payer percentage, average revenue per paying user, average purchase rate, and identifying the whales. The whales are what's going to drive the economy of your games. Whale percentages are extremely rare, so all the paid user acquisition channels, you want to track these key metrics to be able to optimize those campaigns. Here are some of the ARPDAU benchmarks that you should be using. For puzzle and time management games, you should be seeing about 1 to 5 cents US dollars as a key metric that you want to optimize towards. For hidden object and adventure games, 3 to 7 cents. RPG and social casino games, 5 to 10 cents. Again, these metrics vary greatly depending on the category of games. At Chartboost, we've analyzed some of the hardcore RPG and casino games, and actually we've been seeing an ARPDAU of up to 30 cents and payer percentage of 2.4%. So again, depending on the game that you have, every metric that you're measuring should be measured against certain benchmarks, but those KPIs and data that you're gathering is extremely unique to your own game. So if you've gathered your data, you've analyzed it, what do you want to do next? Trust your data. If the user acquisition channels are providing you the data that you can analyze, gather, and make conclusions, you must trust that data and make the right decisions when you're doing paid user acquisition. Data is not static. I want to give a quick example of the Arpu benchmarks between Glue Mobile on the third quarter in 2013 and the third quarter of 2014. Their Arpu benchmark actually doubled, right? It went from $4 to almost $10. So year over year, your benchmark should be changing game over game. You're releasing a casual title to a mid-core title to a hardcore title. All your benchmarks should be different. So what changed for Glue Mobile? You might recognize this celebrity right here, Kim Kardashian. Glue released Kim Kardashian, and it was a major success and a major hit, so their ARPU benchmarks changed. So how do you trust your data? How do you gather the data? How do you analyze it? I think our previous panel talked about it, soft launching. Soft launching before scaling is key. There is no reason why you should be launching a game without soft launching to gather the data and for you to be analyze the data, for you to make tweaks in the game so that it's ready for those 1.91 billion people. Where should you soft launch? Some of the countries that we're seeing in our network are Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Sweden, and Netherlands. Sweden and Netherlands are European countries, English-speaking countries, where you're able to get users a good sample size for you to be able to find and test your KPIs. The sample size that we recommend is 10 to 20,000 players, a time frame of 2 to 10 weeks. Don't forget the free stuff. I can't emphasize this enough. What you need to start out with is your own network. Mobile gaming is becoming very analytical and very scientific. And what's most valuable to you is your own users. Your own users. You've created entertainment, content, but you've created a business. And your own customers and your own players are what's most important to you. So cross-promotion, internal cross-promotion, you having 100 users, 10,000 users, 100,000 users that are playing your game right now, those users are what's most valuable to you because you can use those users to set key metrics, KPIs, but you can also leverage those users and transition them to any of your new titles that you're releasing. At Chartboost, cross-promotions campaigns perform 6 times better than advertising on the network. And the best part, cross-promotion is completely free. And cross-promotion is not only free, now cross-promotion comes with all the analytics that you need. Impressions, clicks, installs, the conversions that you want, along with post-install analytics, what those users are actually doing after you've cross-promoted them to your new titles. Players in your own network are most likely to convert into paying users. You might recognize these icons. It's by Imanji Studios, Temple Run 1 to Temple Run 2. they were able to transition players in their own game from Temple Run 1 to Temple Run 2. But as you know, these are wildly successful titles. But that cross-promotion isn't unique to just big game developers. Taptail, Israeli-based game developer, Taps Games, located in Brazil, they're releasing games, casual titles, and migrating and transitioning their own network of users and from game to game so that you can save on your cost acquisition costs. Game-to-game direct deals. You should control the terms of how you want to acquire your users. And you should know how to acquire those users and what type of users you want to acquire. So at Chartboost, we have a direct deal marketplace where developers choose their own terms. You can focus your user acquisition on valuable sources of players. So you can go to another developer and say, hey, let's do an exchange of players, or let me acquire users directly from you because I know from my data that your users are valuable in my game. On the flip side, you can monetize those users much better. All these networks will tell you, for monetization, we could get you a high ECPM, $10 ECPM, double-digit ECPM, video, interstitial. There's all types of ad formats. But not all users are equal. Your paying users are much more valuable. Even from your non-paying users that play your game for over a month are much more valuable than your users that play only for 1 week. You should be able to monetize them at different ECPM rates. So again, for you to be able to do this, you need the data from these networks. For best practices for cost-efficient user acquisition, demand the data from your partners. Take time to analyze that data. You're going to be getting lots of raw data, but that data is useless if you're not spending time to analyze it. All the game developers around the world are getting user acquisition managers, what's commonly before known as marketing managers. But marketing isn't just luck anymore. It's becoming really scientific and analytical. And you need to take the time to analyze the data that you have gathered. And trust your data. Everyone gets data. Everyone analyzes the data, and they make the mistake of not trusting the data. And don't just ask, there's a lot of data out there, ask yourself, is this actionable data? Can I take action in this data? And finally, don't forget the free stuff. Your users that are inside your game are extremely valuable, and you should leverage them for any new titles or content that you create to be able to cross-promote them completely for free with full supported analytics. Thank you.
I love the data that you showed about retention or efficiency metrics based on the kind of game, the board game example. And then when you market to players of specific games around that, they were better than, say, RPG games. You want to market it to, I forget exactly what the example was.
Right.
But does Chartboost have all of that data? For example, if I want to have a different kind of game that's not a board game but a first-person shooter, do you guys know who the best targets are for that?
Yeah, so I think every game is unique, right? So you want to create different segments that are available, but Chartboost does help, right? We have all the category data, and also we're starting to collect a lot more post-install analytics and actual player data. So we're able to help you guys optimize your campaigns based on what type of game you have and what type of users you're looking for.
Hi. How do you think of a mobile utility app joining the network, since we do see a significant amount of overlap between our users and the game's users?
Yeah, so for 4 years, Chartboost has only worked with mobile games, but for a mobile game developer, whether you think about acquiring users, there's a lot of other sources of valuable users that are not only inside of mobile games. I think we're seeing a lot of those kind of pockets of users coming from utility apps like you had mentioned. In Japan, actually, you're seeing a lot of cross kind of users and similar user profiles between mobile games and comic books, because manga games and comic books are very similar user profiles to mobile games also. But for the time being, Chartboost is going to be focused solely on mobile games because we believe that getting that guaranteed active game player is really important. But certainly there's different pockets of valuable users in other kind of channels as well, like mobile utility apps.
I'd like to ask that usually people use cost per install for free apps, but do you actually do in Chartboost that have a CPI for paid apps?
So cross promotion. So if it's internal cross promotion, right? If it's your own paid titles, that's completely free, right? You wouldn't be paying to migrate from one paid game to another paid game because that's completely for free because it's your own users, and we believe your own users, you own them, and you should be able to do whatever with them. For paid games, we actually recommend CPC because install rates for paid games are extremely low. And our network optimizes based on both click-through rate and install rate. So we've realized that for paid games, if you do it on a CPI basis, you might not be getting the volume that you're looking for. But we do allow paid game advertising in our own network.